Okay, so we're good on YouTube Live, and we'll get started here in just a minute.
That's why, like for me, I have things.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark, and I'm going to start welcoming you here to Gov School this afternoon. I do ask as you come into the room, you should have your mute status on. If you don't mind making sure that's the case, it just helps with background noise as we go along. And we don't want you to stay muted the whole time. This class is meant for you to ask questions. And let's see here. Okay, so I have multiple windows open and I can hear voices coming on. So I'm just clarifying the technology, and we'll give everybody just a couple minutes to get into the room here today. And for those of you on YouTube Live, thank you for joining there. If you do have comments, you can place those in the comment box and we will answer those later on. But if you have a link directly to our Zoom channel, please feel free to pop over there, and that way you can have interaction with our guest speaker, who's going to talk to us about all things GSA this afternoon, the General Services Administration. But we still have individuals lined up for entering the room, so let's just give everybody just a minute to get into the room. Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm one of the founders of GovDirections, and here we are at Gov School today. Today is going to be a recorded version as well as the one that's on YouTube Live. So you can pop over to YouTube Live and watch it later, but we also are going to record that. I'd like to make sure everybody's aware of that for privacy reasons. We have started recording. So here we are, and I want to thank you for joining us today. And we have a guest speaker with us, and a subject matter expert in the area of the General Services Administration. And I've known Yolanda for a while now, and she has been an affiliate of ours, and we certainly are thankful for her working with us. And I know she has this background, so I reached out to her and said, could you possibly teach this class for us and help us out? GSA can be a complex topic. A lot of our members have an interest in doing that. And so here she is today to give us this presentation and just a brief biography. And she can tell you more about herself as she goes along today. But Yolanda Drake is a seasoned and results-oriented government contracts consultant. I like that part that she put in there about being results-oriented. I think we all have that approach, and that's important in government. She has over 30 years of diverse legal and GovCon experience. I would never believe that. So that's long term there, with an emphasis on proposal development, federal regulations, compliance, and complex issues related resolutions related to pertaining to federal government procurement of services and products. She is the founder of Kinethic Consulting Services. Hope I said that correct. Yolanda, yes. You can correct me if not. It's a proposal and grant consulting firm servicing small businesses nationwide. She has a high proficiency in federal procurement regulations. And this is where we get into the acronyms of FAR, DFARS, TINA, TINA, and GSA. I'm not even sure about TINA, so you may have to explain that one to me as well. So I'm learning something new today. I'm going to sit through this entire class. And she, of course, has extensive experience with federal proposals and grants and a proven ability to negotiate and manage complex, multifaceted deals, always important when you get to this level, and successfully has supported multiple businesses who have won grants and government contracts. She is NCMA certified and carries a CPCM and CFCM certificates, and she is a member of the Association of Proposal Management Professionals. So with that said, here it is with our Gov School. I want to welcome you, Yolanda, and turn it over to you. But everybody, I'm sure, is going to have some great questions. And if you have some rules about questions as you go along, please share that with them. But I'm going to open up the chat box. And that's a great way to pose the questions. and I'll just say pose questions here, and I'll watch those as we go along. Just
Okay.
technically, just real quick, if we run into a problem, I always like to tell you, just pop back on this channel. We'll refresh, and you should be able to get right back in. And I'll be in the background watching that. So, how are you doing today, Yolanda?
I'm doing so well, Mark, and thank you once again. Thank you for that kind introduction. Good afternoon to everyone here. Thank you for all of your time joining us. I know this is kind of like a lunchtime for most of the time zones here. So this was
I have run into a frozen screen. I'm not sure if anyone else has. Just give us a second. Yolanda, your screen has frozen. Let me make sure she knows that. Okay, just 1 minute. This happens occasionally. As always, we forge forward. This is all a new learning experience for many of us. So we'll let her pop back on, and just give us a minute. In the meantime, it's a great a great Thursday afternoon here in Atlanta. And I appreciate you having this big crowd. Everyone is in different locations with a Zoom call, so this can happen. And we'll give her just a minute. Start thinking of those questions, though. We can have that ready to go when she comes back in. Let's all stay here in the room. Let's hold 1 minute, and here we go. We got her now. Okay. So Yolanda's coming back in the room for this, and we still have more coming online as well. So it's not a bad thing. So it's good.
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I apologize. I don't know what happened. Everything just went dark.
It's okay. This is Zoom. It's been 3 years ago since we really have started using this platform, and it's getting better for some of us, and sometimes it just catches us that way. So we're good. Let's get restarted there.
Perfect. So I'm going to reshare my screen here. 1 second. Technical difficulties. Perfect.
There you go. And we still have individuals join us, so this is a little delay there. Okay.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, once again, let me start again. Good afternoon to all, and thanks for joining this session. I really wanted to make this session more of an interactive session so that when I'm giving this overview, it really touches the top high level detail of what the GSA multiple award schedule is, and which is often known as the MAS schedule, and all of the requirements that applicants should meet. But I welcome questions, and as Mark said earlier, just pop your questions into the chat box. And as we get along in each section, I'll pause and we can take a couple of questions so we don't have to leave all of those to the end. But so before I jump right into the GSA schedule, I wanted to give a brief introduction about our firm, Ethic Consulting Services. We are a minority-owned, women-owned small business, and essentially we specialize in helping small businesses enter into the federal government space, as well as the state and local arena. We also help with grants on the nonprofit side. So essentially, we have a team of 8 subject matter experts covering business development, researchers, proposal writers, grant writers, and some of our team members are former contracting officers from the federal government. So, we bring extensive experience and a lot of expertise in the federal acquisition regulations, the DFARS that come along with that, as well as GSA, obviously, with all the GSA rules and regulations. Some of our experts on our team have security clearances, so we can also help out with deals that are on the classified side. So essentially, even though our support encompasses all sorts of businesses from small to large businesses, our main goal really and our mission is to help small businesses, and therefore we keep our consulting services geared towards that. All right, with that, just a high-level overview of what we provide in terms of our services. I call it cradle to grave support because we help out with the pre-award side of the procurement process. We help small businesses with RFP analysis, with preparation of the proposal, making sure that everything's compliant. We help small businesses with the negotiations, right through to award. We take you guys all the way there. And a lot of our clients come back to us with post-award contract consulting in terms of contract management, reporting, compliance, and even help with contract issues or termination for convenience issues and things like that. So just wanted to give everyone an overview of what we offer. All right, with that, I will jump right into the topic of today, which is GSA Mass Schedule, which is also known as the GSA Multiple Award Schedule. All right, so first question is, what is the GSA Mass Schedule? Well, the GSA issues long-term government-wide contracts that will provide the federal, state, and local government buyers access to commercial products, services, and solutions at pre-negotiated pricing. So what does that mean? Essentially, each GSA contract that is awarded is firstly for a base of 5 years. You get 5 years of contract base, and then there are additional 3 options. Each option is 5 years in length. So potentially you could have a 20-year contract. So that's why that's the long-term government contracts. These are IDIQ contracts. In other words, they are indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity type contracts. So what does that mean? That means that these contracts are like a master level contract where individual requirements and individual agencies can then purchase and issue task orders or delivery orders for the products or services that they are offering. So that's why it's called IDIQ. So you may be asking, well, why should I get on the GSA schedule? Well, the main reason here is that, first of all, the federal government is the world's largest customer. So we all know that. And approximately 20% of their federal contracts from federal agencies go towards purchases off of the GSA schedule. So that's a pretty good reason. This schedule actually gives you a good way to increase your customer base. Being on the schedule will allow your company to pursue schedule-specific procurements that are not available to other companies that are not on schedule. Also, once you get awarded a schedule, you will have access to eBuy, which is the kind of the portal where opportunities are released specifically for companies that are on that schedule and that's SIN under the service item number. And then it also, once you're on the schedule, you can list your products or services on the GSA Advantage. That's kind of like a website that's the government's version of Amazon, which is like the way I kind of like to compare that. From the product's perspective, you can actually get on GSA Advantage and look at product pictures, look at the pricing, look at the description, kind of like what you would do on Amazon. So it gives you really good access to the government buyers who would be going out there to those websites. So your other next question may be, well, who can buy from this schedule? So the federal government, all military and civilian agencies are allowed to buy off of the schedule. Apart from those federal agencies, the schedule is also available to mixed ownership government corporations like the FDIC or the federal land banks. The District of Columbia is also allowed to purchase off of it. And certain qualified nonprofit agencies can purchase off of the schedule for certain commodities. There are also certain purchases that are open to the state and local government agencies. As a side note, this might be good for those based in California to note, and I'm not sure if there are any participants. I know there are about 33 companies here, but if you're based out in California, the state of California has a program called CMAS, which is kind of the state equivalent of the GSA schedule, where they actually piggyback off of your schedule. So once you get a federal GSA schedule, you can then apply for the CMAS, which then is another vehicle that's opened to the state of California. So why do you think the government would buy from the schedule? Well, they're very, very incentivized to do that for several reasons. One is the streamlined procedures. This is under FAR Part 8. So the methods of procurement are very streamlined. They have the other comfort they get is the fact that all contractors allowed on the schedule are pre-qualified by GSA. They're vetted, and they have pre-negotiated ceiling prices. So that in itself is a good incentive for federal government agencies to purchase off of the schedule, because first of all, they know they're getting a pre-negotiated price. And a lot of times they then, get an additional discount off of that. And they also realize that the terms and conditions on the GSA schedule are all very FAR are in compliance with the FAR. So essentially, they have all of the required FAR terms and conditions within their contracts when they purchase off of the schedule. So with that, I'm going to take a brief pause here, Mark, to see if there are any questions that may have popped into the chat box.
In fact, there has been. Danny's asking, how does one actually get on the MSA schedule?
Well, that's a really good question, Danny, and I will definitely. That's 2 slides down, so we'll definitely cover that in a couple of minutes.
And then someone else is saying, how much does it cost to join GSA? A little confusing.
There is no cost to the contractor that is trying to get on the schedule, this really is a solicitation that the contractor that's trying to get on the schedule can do itself as the company, and there is no cost, there is no joining fee, so to speak, to join a schedule. All right, so let me just move on real quick to the next slide, and we'll cover more questions as we go. All right, so you may be curious, well, what's available on the schedule, and does it cover what my company sells? So currently, the GSA Mass schedule covers several categories, as you can see on this slide: office management category, facility category, and it goes on. So what you see on this slide are what they call the large categories. Under these large categories, there are multiple subcategories that will fall kind of under these large categories, and you will, be able to find those categories that align with your services and products. And then under those subcategories, you can find the specific, what we call the SIN, which is the service item number, that will then relate or kind of align with the service that you're offering. So the important thing is that on the GSA website, they do provide a mapping. There is a mapping of all these categories to the next code that is aligned to your service category. So there is an easy way to find your specific subcategory of offering that will map to what you're trying to sell to the government. And obviously, if you ever need help with mapping, we're always here to help you. You can always reach out to me. I'll provide my number at the end of this presentation. But one important thing to note is that whatever category you then ultimately select to offer under the GSA schedule, you should make sure that that particular NAICS code is in your SAM registration, because if the next code that's aligned to the specific labor offering that you want to offer is not in your SAM registration, then that's going to cause a little hiccup there. All right. So any contractor that has a business and is registered in SAM can actually apply for the GSA Mass schedule. However, there are some basic qualifications that the contractor will need to meet. So the two most important qualifications are the financial responsibility and the past performance areas. So let's touch on the financial responsibility first. First of all, as part of the application, the company will have to provide 2 years of financial statements. That means 2 years worth of P&L, profit and loss statements, and 2 years worth of balance sheet. However, there is now an exception called the Startup Springboard program. If the contractor decides to opt for the Startup Springboard process, then this would be an exception to it. And I'll go more into what can be substituted further down in our overview. So and the reason why GSA wants 2 years of financial statements, they want to make sure that the contractor has the financial resources and ability to conduct business with the federal government. And so what does that mean? That means that, they want to see financial statements that don't have extensive red flags that don't show, you know, that the company is going to be in financial stress if they do get a huge order. So that's the main reason why they want to vet the financial abilities of a company. The other main qualification threshold is the past performance. The company has to show at least 2 years of measurable past performance. So what does that mean? That means that you'll have to show that you've at least got 3 past performance. These can be past performances from the federal government in the area of prime contracts with the federal government, or it could be commercial past performance as well. So under federal contracts, in most cases, if you go over a certain threshold, the government does provide what we call contractor performance assessment reports through the CPARS system. That's kind of like an evaluation at the end of each year, performance year. And that report kind of shows how you did in that project. So if you have at least 3 CPARs, you can just upload your 3 CPARs into the system, the eoffer system, which I'll cover in a little while when you apply for the GSA schedule. If you don't have any government or federal contracts past performance, you can use commercial past performance. So B2B contracts are acceptable. So what we do for that is GSA has a past performance questionnaire. It's a template that they have as one of the forms, which you can then send to your past performance reference and ask them to fill out the evaluation form, sign it, and send it back to you. And those PPQs will then serve to show your past performance experience for at least 3 projects, 3 to 5 projects. So I did mention that there is an exception for the financial responsibility, financial statements for Springboard program. Well, there's the same exception for the Springboard program in terms of the past performance. For companies that do not have 2 years worth of business, so startups that have less than 2 years worth of either commercial business or any business, you can use your company executives or your key personnel's professional experience. So their personal experience does count and can be substituted. So let me just cover a little bit more detail on what the Startup Springboard program is. So in the relatively older days, the Springboard program was only available to the IT sector because of the fast pace of how technology kind of evolved. The government was very aware that there are a lot of startup businesses that could offer technology and innovation to the government, but they are not 2 years, they don't have at least 2 years of business. So that's why they started off the Springboard program for those technology businesses. However, the good news is they have now expanded this Springboard program to every category within the MAS schedule. So that's a good news for all startups who want to take advantage of the Startup Springboard. So with that, you will now be able to use, if you don't have 2 years worth of business, you can actually use the past experience of your leadership team. I know a lot of owners of startups actually come from the industry and have years of extensive experience, but having started up their businesses recently, they don't have that length of period that's required for the 2 years. So in those situations, you can definitely use your leadership's past performance experience. You can also, as a substitute for the financial P&L and the balance sheet, you can actually provide financial documentation to demonstrate your company's financial responsibility in lieu of those financial statements. So this gives additional flexibility to new companies and startups. So at this point, I'm gonna allow for a couple of questions, maybe related to this topic or to just the recent slides we've covered.
Anybody got a specific question you want to ask? I see a couple of them in the chat box. Then I'll read, but if anybody has one, they can raise their hand at this point as well. So there was a question about the Springboard program, and I did put a link in the box so they can link directly to it on the GSA area. And Latasha has a question.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you so much for your time today. I just had a quick question with regards to the financials. As we all know, they're changing our financial system. Do you have a directive for how GSA Schedule is going to relate with the CBDCs? Are they going to require the contractors to, like, what are the requirements for contractors with payments? Do you know anything about that?
So in terms of financial statements, essentially what they're asking for submission is your company's P&L and your balance sheet. Is there a different way to show that you're concerned about?
Well, my question is regarding the central banking digital currency system. So our country's rolling out the FedNow system next month in April, and it's supposed to be live by July. So my question is, how does that affect contracting with GSA? Are they going to require the contractors to all register for the central banking digital currencies? Are they going to allow token coins? Like, have they given any directive to anybody about that? Because as I understand it, it's pretty much going to start rolling out the first week of April.
That's a very good question, Latasha. I'm going to take note of that, and I will reach out to my connections and get you that answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I have not heard of any directives regarding that.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Thank you for the question. And Obi has a question.
Sure.
Hey, Yolanda.
Hi.
She's great, by the way, everyone. My question was for the registration for subs. Is that through the GSA Advantage website, or because it seems like that is a login information for buyers in the government? Or is there somewhere another link that we need to go to
Sure.
register through GSA?
That's a great question, and I'm actually going to cover that in a couple of slides down.
Okay.
Essentially, yes, I will show you. Essentially, the application itself for the schedule and the way you submit your proposal is all electronic, and it's called it's a website called eoffer, the GSA eoffer. And that through that website, once you register for it, you can submit your proposal online. But I will walk through that at a high level in a couple of slides. Great question. All right, so let's move on, and I can cover the next topic. In terms of unwritten rules, right? So the financials, you might be wondering, well, so, what are they evaluating? I know you mentioned that they want to make sure we're, financially viable to sustain ongoing relationships with the government. Although this is not a hard rule, I think, I've put down a couple of notes from experience that will help expedite or streamline the application. And if it would be good to see, a kind of a ballpark 200,000 plus revenue in your last year. Again, that's not a hard and fast rule. To show that there are no soft spots, so to speak, on your balance sheet, like severe adverse issues and no huge loss of income. So, don't be discouraged if your statements do have some adverse items in them, because as long as you can provide justification, that's something that we would help our clients in terms of looking through the financials. Each adverse input should have some kind of justification to show the GSA contracting officer that these events, right, have some reason behind them, or there's some strategy behind them. Another thing to note is that under the products area, you need to be mindful that products must be TAA compliant. Okay, that's the Trade Agreements Act. And so, products made in China are not TAA compliant. So just keep that in mind. So before you start going to, upload your, trying to put together your proposal, like every other thing, you need to do your market research. One of the good tools would be the FPDS, which is now incorporated it's folded under SAM.gov. It's a database which would then, show you who really is buying, right? Which agency, is it the Army? Is it the VA? Which types of agencies are really buying the type of services you are providing, or the type of products that you are providing. You can also find data on your key competitors, and you can find data on all contracts that are hosted in that database. So some of the questions you should also consider is, well, do you have the resources to market your commercial products to these agencies, right? Once you get your schedule, how are you going to be outreaching to these agencies? And then the next step to beginning your process would be to take 2 additional training sessions. These 2 additional training sessions are mandatory in order for you to apply for your schedule. The first one's called Pathways to Success Training. The training provides information about the whole program, what you can expect, and how to compete and succeed as a schedule contractor, and how to build your business plan, and how to put together your proposal. For this training, it's about an hour long, and you can take it online. But the important thing to note is that once you complete this training, as part of your offer in the GSA eoffer system, you'll have to kind of certify and check the box that you have certified that you've taken this training. The second training is more like an assessment. It's also it will also take you about an hour to complete. There are about 33 questions that will help you, walk you through the research part of it. It'll ask you questions like who do you think are your largest competitors? What are the volumes of your type of service do you see being bought by different agencies? So it kind of walks you through the preparation and gives you a good assessment. This assessment has to be taken by your the company's officers. So one of the officers has to take it, either the president, vice president, or the C-suite level officer. After the completion of the assessment, again, this is something that has to be certified as part of your offer in GSA eoffer. So addressing some of the questions earlier, how is this proposal being submitted and where do we submit it? So first of all, even before you can submit an eoffer in the GSA eoffer, you have to obtain a login.gov account. And the reason why you do that is because you will need to register your company with sam.gov. And so the first step is really to get your login.gov and then register the company with SAM. That takes, a few weeks, and recently with the recent changes implemented within sam.gov, it has been taking a little longer. So you'd have to plan for that. Once you get your company's SAM registration completed, then you would have to get yourself a FAST ID, which is a GSA FAST ID. It's kind of like a multi-authentication ID, where you'll have to link it to the email that is to be used for the eoffer proposal. So once you get that done, then you can actually go to GSA eoffer and start out, open an account and link your unique entity identification, which is the number that you would have gotten from your SAM registration, to your offer. And that can be navigated within the eoffer system. Within the eoffer website, you'll find a lot of GSA templates. The templates to be used would be specific to the type of category that you're offering. So if you're offering services, within training, there's a specific template for you. If you're offering services that has labor categories, then you would use a different type of template. So there are various templates in there that you will be able to leverage and use them as resources. And then once you get into the eoffer, there will be sections that will form the technical proposal. And within the technical proposal, which is all done online, there are essentially text boxes where you would write to your project experience, your corporate experience, your systems that you use within your company, your quality control processes. And there will also be, if you're offering services, there will also be a section for project experience. So for example, if you're offering IT services under a particular SIN, service item number, within that SIN, they will ask you to provide a project write-up about a past project that you've done that is relevant and similar to the type of service that you're offering under this SIN. So if you're, for example, if you're offering cybersecurity services, and then you would submit a write-up about a recent and relevant project for a client that you've done similar services, i.e. cybersecurity. And then, there are different aspects and different questions related to that project that you'll see in the eoffer system. So it's pretty comprehensive. You just have to address each aspect being asked. So the important thing, I mean, you know, there is a lot of information that you will find in the portal and in the GSA website. But the important thing is to download the solicitation and to read that carefully, because there are a lot of items that you will need to note and need to comply with in your offer. At this point, I just want to remind everyone that, you know, the GSA contracting officers, they have to evaluate the proposals according to the instructions. So if there is a slight non-compliance, if you miss something, if you don't address something carefully, they have to, and most of the time, they will ask you to either withdraw your offer or they will outright reject the offer and you'll have to start all over again. So it is very important to download the solicitation and make sure you read through it carefully, especially related to the type of service or the type of products that you're offering. And then, you know, there are several items that you'll need to compile beforehand or as part of your preparation. So I've listed some of and these are only some of them, not all of them, but these are the important ones that I thought I would touch on. We've already talked about the financial statements. The subcontracting plan is something that will only be relevant for large businesses. So if you're a large business and if you're anticipating over $750,000 in sales, you have to submit a subcontracting plan to meet the small business goals. The technical proposal, as I said, that's done online and within the eoffer, it talks about your company's corporate experience as well as past project experience. The professional compensation plan is another item that you'll need to prepare and upload. This essentially talks about the policies related to how you give benefits to your professional employees. So things like your benefit plans and your compensation policies regarding your employees. End user, the EULAs, the end user license agreements, these are only relevant for if you have software that you're offering to sell. The commercial sales practice form, this is a requirement for some of the SINs. It is not required if you are planning to opt in for the TDR reporting. So on a high level, the TDR reporting is an option where the contractors, if your service item number is part of the TDR reporting program, you can opt to join that or take on the TDR reporting, which is a monthly reporting of your sales. If you take that route, then you don't have to submit the commercial sales practice form. And in terms of the difference between going the commercial sales practice route and opting in for the TDR, under the commercial sales practice form that you're uploading, you're essentially providing a disclosure of all of your discounting practices. So essentially, this form will ask you about all of the discounts that you provide to your customers. GSA's policy or the requirements in the solicitation is for GSA to get equal to or better than the best discount that you offer to your MFC, which is your most favorite customer. So this commercial sales practice really provides information to the government to get a good view of how you price your services and the type of discounts that you offer, the best discounts that you've offered to a certain group of customers, and for that particular service or for that particular labor category. And that would be the price that you would be then offering to GSA, equivalent or better than. Under the TDR monthly reporting option, you do not have to disclose all of your discounts to your most favorite customers. However, the price reduction clause will not apply. And we can go into that a little more detail. I know, this is a short session, so this might be a second part of a further session, maybe in the future. So on a high level, the other items that are required would be either a commercial price list, if your company does have a commercial price list, like for products or even for services. And there is also, if you do not have a commercial price list, there's the option of going with market pricing. The other two items I wanted to mention of importance here are the price support documentation. So it is important to gather up your invoices. The invoices are submitted because the GSA wants to ensure that they review the type of pricing that you've offered before. So, for example, if you're offering a product, for $20, we want to show that you've sold that product for $20 before, and so. Part of your price documentation to show that could be either in the form of an invoice or in the form of a quote or in the form of a contract. Like if you've had a contract signed and it's reflected that you've sold a number of items there for that price. Okay. Other required forms, are listed on this slide. I won't go into too much detail in the essence of time, but if you're hiring a consultant to help you with submitting your proposal, you will need to upload an agent authorization letter. If you are supplying products from a manufacturer, you would need a letter of supply. However, there is a program, and I've provided the link on this slide. If your manufacturer is part of the VPP dashboard, you will not have to provide a letter of supply. And you can easily, if you're a reseller of these products, you can easily find them here and validate if your manufacturer is part of that program. The price proposal template is an Excel spreadsheet, and it is essentially specific to each type of service. So, as I said before, if you're offering training, there's a certain spreadsheet you'll need to fill. If you're offering different services with labor categories, then there's a specific tab for you to fill in. So once again, I won't touch again on the CSP template since we went through that before. So finally, once you've completed all your steps and gathered all your documents and uploaded in the eoffer system, then you can then submit it. There's also a review. It goes through several tabs, and there's a final review tab where you can review it and submit it. After submission, it then goes to the government contracting officer for review. I have added a link to the login for eoffer on this slide. So when the slides are distributed, I think you can, I think it's a live link that you can just click on. So just real quick, as you know, the government does have, they do receive a lot of offers. So these GSA schedule offers will be reviewed, as and when they come in, but you will join a line of other offers. So that's why, my earlier comment where you need to ensure that your offer is really complete and compliant, because if you were to ask to withdraw or if they reject your offer, then when you restart and resubmit your offer, you essentially go back to the end of the line. So it is very important to ensure that your offer is complete, complete to the extent that they can actually continue, accepting your offer for evaluation. So with that, I know we have only 5 minutes left. Wanted to open the floor for last few questions. And I'm sure if we can't cover everyone's questions, I have given my information in the slides. So, feel free to send me an email or reach out to me to schedule a call to answer any specific questions. I'd be happy to oblige.
Well, thank you, Yolanda. If you want to leave that slide up there for a few minutes, that would be great.
Sure.
And there are some questions in the chat, and I'll just kind of review them quickly. But if you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand. So we'll start with Bruce. Bruce has a question.
I'm wondering, how will we receive the slide deck?
Generally, what we do is Yolanda will provide that to us, and then I will distribute it to everyone who's clicked through via the invitation that we sent, as well as place it on a link to it in a Google Drive on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Good question. And a couple of times on here, I saw a question was, if one was more related to registering, if they're registered with SAM, do they also need to join GSA? I think you've answered that question, but you may want to refresh that. So that process, a lot of our members are brand new to SAM, and they're not a little confused. What is SAM? What is GSA?
Right. So very good question. There are two different things. So in order to do business with the federal government, your company has to be registered in sam.gov. And I will include a link to that in the slides that will be sent to Mark for distribution. Sam.gov is really a registration that it's free. So, you don't have to pay to join to get registered on sam.gov. Under sam.gov, they will issue each company what they call a UEI number, a unique entity identification number. And that number kind of serves as your identity when you're dealing with the government. So with that identity, you can then, whenever you submit proposals, either proposals in general, in response to general federal RFPs, or to an application through the GSA, you can use that number as your ID. But yes, the answer is, even after you get registered in SAM, you have to then sign up an account. You'll have to get your FAST ID, which is kind of the MFA type authentication ID that will get you into the eoffer system. So it's two different platforms.
How do you get your FAST ID?
So it's a link, and I will again, in the slides that we send out, I will make sure that we'll insert the FAST ID link to where you can open an account. Again, it's a free account, linked to the email that you will be using for your eoffer. So we'll provide all the three links: the sam.gov link, the link to get your FAST ID, and the link for the eoffer.
Is that FAST ID link the same link you use to register for the GSA?
I'm sorry?
Is that the same link you would use to register for the GSA?
It would be the same ID, yes, correct. Once you get registered, when you hit the eoffer link, it will pull you through the Fast ID. You'll have to use your Fast ID to get in the system.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've seen a couple of others for general question about cost. And I know you say over and over again, even registering with SAM is completely free to do that. And going through the GSA process, of course, you can do it yourself. But the true cost is the time trying to understand. You hear the complexities. And this is one of the areas I always advise our clients to seek a consultant. And the time savings is well worth it. So I'll answer that question for you, unless you had something you want to add there.
Yeah, sure, Mark. That is very true. I mean, it is free to apply. However, maneuvering and, getting through all of the solicitation requirements on your own will be challenging, especially if you don't have much background in federal acquisitions regulations. But it is possible to do it. It's just very timely.
Yeah, and any government agency expects you to know what you're talking about when you come to them. They really do. They're there to help you, but they want you at a level where you can converse about it. So that's why a consultant really adds that value. And Obi, you have a question?
Yes. My question is, are there any other agencies that require this type of registrations other than GSA?
So GSA is, this program, the GSA Schedule, is offered by GSA so that they can offer the offerings to all of the federal agencies. Other agencies have what we call GWACs, which are government-wide agency contracts. But this program in itself, the GSA Schedule, really is comprehensive in the sense that it wraps a lot of different industries, all the way from services to products. And the reason why GSA does this is to provide a good way of offering the various different federal agencies ability to purchase products or services that are pre-negotiated, right? That are vetted, contractors that are already vetted through the GSA, products that are already vetted. And so this registration in itself, or the solicitation in itself, although while it is pretty complex, once you get on the schedule, you can actually reach out to various different federal agencies to purchase off of this schedule. There are, as in answering your questions, I am aware other agencies may have their own schedules, or not schedule, but their own contracts. But those would be really specific or less comprehensive. Hope that answers your question, Obi.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
That's a good question. There are a couple I'm not sure what your timeline's like, Yolanda. I'll be glad to stay here as long as there's questions, but there were just a couple more general ones, as you might see in the chat box. One specifically, I think, are architectural services on the schedule?
So there is an engineering SIN which may cover. So the important thing is to align your NAICS code. And one good thing I can do, Mark, is in the final slides, I will put a link to the mapping. GSA does provide the mapping of their categories, and then the subcategories with the NAICS code. So that's an easy way to figure out. However, there is a caveat though. GSA always updates, or well, most of the time, very frequently, I should say, updates their schedule. They call them refreshes. They do a refresh of the schedules on the first quarter and the third quarter of the year. So you've got to be mindful that when you're submitting or getting ready to submit your proposal, make sure that it has accounted for the latest refresh. where they update. And I know the latest refresh kind of did impact a little bit of the category services because of the recent NAICS revamp by the SBA. So I will be able to send a link with the slides on that to the resource, and I'll take a note of that, where you can easily map your specific type of service to the large category.
And then a couple other small other questions. One is more about prime contractors that have that are there and how to offer their products to prime contractors if they're registered in SAM but not GSA. And then finally, there is one about rebranding your business in general. They changed their name, but I know that there's been an attempt recently to address easing any kind of change in SAM that's been brought about because of the whole change in SAM. Any thoughts on those?
Right. Right. Yeah, I can answer definitely in addressing the SAM issue. There has been a huge change in the process for SAM registration. So now in order to get a full registration, you will have to submit proof or evidence that show your incorporation date, incorporation state, your legal name, and your address. So there has been a lot of backlog in the SAM processing because of the recent changes. So it is important if you've changed your corporation name to then, provide the documentation through SAM, and there are processes within SAM that will explain that. They do provide a list of various different documents that you can use and upload to show proof of your name change. So, with those, I would say, my best advice would be to follow the process that's within sam.gov.
So thank you again. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you again for coming and talking with us today and sharing your knowledge. As I put in the box here to everyone, also thank you for coming and listening. There's information here to get in touch with Yolanda, and I encourage you to do so. She is a subject matter expert in the topic, and her company does help companies like yours with this topic, and encourage you to reach out. Any final comments, Yolanda?
No, thank you. I appreciate everybody's time. I know we went over a little bit, and I apologize for the initial hiccup when we started off, but it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to answering any additional questions offline if you have any. Thank you again, and have a great day.
You're very welcome. Thank you all. And I'll try to edit out that first few minutes if we can. We'll see what we can do. Thank you all.
All right.